You step onto a flat piece of glass in your bathroom. A red digital number blinks back at you. Maybe you feel a pang of guilt. You think about the calories in your lunch, the desk job that keeps you sitting for 8 hours a day, and the evolutionary struggle of storing fat. Today, we treat being overweight like a modern curse, a design flaw of the human body. But what if we took a time machine back 30,000 years? Did any caveman ever actually have a belly? The answer is incredibly strange. Because for almost all of human history, being fat wasn't a disease or a failure. It was a superpower. Let's start in the freezing landscape of Ice Age Europe. Around 25,000 years ago, our ancestors carved small stone statues. Archaeologists call them Venus figurines. And when you look at them, they are shocking. The most famous one, the Venus of Willendorf, depicts a female body, but she isn't athletic, slender, or muscular. She is highly, visibly obese. She has massive breasts, a large round belly, and heavy thighs. For decades, researchers asked a simple question. Were these actually portraits of real people? Think about the environment. This was the peak of the Ice Age. To survive, humans had to walk miles every day, hunting mammoths and gathering scarce roots. Getting obese in that environment sounds mathematically impossible. But some scientists have a radical theory. They believe these statues weren't just religious art. They were a biological guide. In an Ice Age world where starvation was always one bad winter away, a body that could hold onto fat was a miracle. The Venus statues weren't warnings about bad health. They were the ultimate symbols of wealth, survival, and fertility. They showed the dream body of the Ice Age. But how does a human body get fat in the first place? To understand this, we have to look at your DNA, specifically a concept called the thrifty gene hypothesis. For 99% of human history, your ancestors faced a brutal cycle, feast and famine. One week, they would successfully hunt a massive bison. There was more meat than they could carry. But they didn't have refrigerators. They couldn't save it in a freezer. So they had to eat as much as possible, as fast as possible. This is where your genes came in. The humans who survived weren't the ones with fast metabolisms. Fast metabolisms are terrible for survival in the wild. If your body burns calories quickly, you starve first when the food runs out. Instead, evolution selected for thrifty bodies. These were bodies that were incredibly efficient at turning extra calories into fat. Fat is not just tissue. It is a highly advanced organic savings account. Every pound of fat stored on your body represents roughly 3,500 calories of energy. To an Ice Age human, that savings account was the difference between life and death. If a famine lasted a month, the thrifty humans lived because they had a biological backup generator. The thin humans, who couldn't store fat easily, died. We are the descendants of those survivors, which means you inherited the most successful fat-storing genes in evolutionary history. But while hunter-gatherers had the genes to get fat, they rarely had the opportunity. They moved too much, and food was too scarce. Then, around 10,000 years ago, we invented agriculture. We started growing wheat, barley, and rice. And for the first time, a small group of humans stopped moving. The elites, the kings, the priests, and the royalty. If you want to see the first truly obese humans in history, you have to look at ancient Egypt. We think of Egyptians as slender figures painted on tomb walls, but the physical evidence of their mummies tells a very different story. Consider Queen Hatshepsut, who ruled Egypt around 1450 BC. When scientists analyzed her mummy, they discovered she was obese. She also had severe tooth decay and likely suffered from diabetes. And she wasn't alone. CT scans of elite Egyptian mummies show that many of them suffered from atherosclerosis, clogged arteries. Why? Because their diet was rich in honey, heavy bread, and sweet beer. They sat on thrones all day while servants did the work. They had successfully built a miniature version of our modern world, and their bodies reacted exactly like ours do today. They became the first humans to experience modern metabolic diseases. This brings us to the tragic reality of our modern struggle. The human body is an evolutionary masterpiece. It is perfectly designed to survive a hostile, unpredictable planet. But there is a catch. Our environment changed in a split second. Evolutionary biologists call this the evolutionary mismatch. For 200,000 years, your body evolved to survive in a world where you had to run, hunt, and forage for every single calorie. A world where sugar was a rare luxury found only in wild berries. A world where fat was a lifesaver. But in just a few decades, we built a world where calories are infinite. We invented drive-thrus, supermarkets, and delivery apps. We engineered food to be packed with processed sugars and fats that trigger our ancient brain's feast or famine response. When you eat a donut, your ancient brain doesn't think, "This is bad for my beach body." Your brain thinks, "We just found a rare beehive. Store this fat immediately before the winter hits." Your DNA doesn't know that the winter is never coming. We are Pleistocene hunter-gatherers, trapped in an office chair. So, could ancient humans become obese? Yes, but only if they were kings, queens, or lived in rare pockets of extreme abundance. For the average person, obesity was physically impossible, but their bodies desperately wanted to be fat. They spent millions of years trying to solve the problem of starvation, and we finally solved it. But in doing so, we created a brand new problem. So the next time you look at a scale or struggle with a diet, don't view your body as a failure. View it as a survivor. Because those extra pounds aren't a design flaw. They are the echoes of a prehistoric superpower, working exactly as it was programmed to.